If you're new to the model railroad world, I think by now you've probably discovered that there's a lot more to it than just running trains. In fact, there's one key component that I think is probably the last thing on people's minds as they're getting started in the hobby, and that's maintenance. So today we're just going to kind of hit the high points of some common maintenance and lubrication points on your locomotive, because just like the real deal in the real world, they need to be maintained in order to function and perform properly. Also, I would like for you to leave your lubrication and maintenance points in the comments below, so feel free to put those there. So hop on, let's get started. So getting started, let's go over a few basic lubrication points. We're going to use this Athearn GP7 Blue Box locomotive, which by the way is a great engine, bulletproof. Alright, so as you can see on this engine, we've got a shaft coming out at each end of the motor that drives each truck. Now each shaft has these universal joints. These should be lightly greased. And at the end of the universal joint is a gearbox. Inside this gearbox is a worm gear that needs to be greased, and typically a bearing or a bushing that will need a light oiling. You have this on both ends of the locomotive. Also, on either end of the motor where the shaft comes out will be a small bearing or bushing that will also need a light oiling. Below the drive shaft, you can see the gears for the gearbox sticking up. Typically, you can get by with putting a light coating of grease on this gear, and as you run it, it will distribute it out to the other gears within the truck. Another way you can get to the gears in the trucks is by removing this cap. On different locomotives, some are screwed on, these snap on. You want to use grease on the gears and a light oiling for the bearings on the axles. Though the principle is basically the same, with your model steam locomotives, there are a few more items that will need to be looked at and maintained, and also a few delicacies that you need to be made aware of. On a lot of your modern steam locomotives, you'll have to remove the bottom cover in order to expose the axles and drive gear to do the lubrication. You have to be cautious of your electrical pickups and any wiring so that you don't break anything off. Once the cover's out of the way, now you can see your axle and your drive gear clearly. You'll apply a light coat of grease to your drive gear and your axles. The lube that you use needs to be compatible with plastic, whether it be the oil or the grease. I use Bachmann Easy Lube. Another area that requires periodic maintenance is the drive rods and valve gear. I use an oil pen for this process, and it makes it a lot easier to apply light surfaces of oil. Because it doesn't take much. You'll basically look like you just got it damp, but believe me, that's enough. You don't want to over lubricate anything because the locomotive will naturally sling it with momentum, and you could put oil in places that you don't want it and cause more problems than good. Anytime you feel like you've over lubricated something, just take a paper towel and soak it up, and you should be good to go. You can also use the oil pan to apply a light coat of oil to the ends of the axles on the tender where they meet the trucks. This will help eliminate drag and allow them to continue to roll freely. So how often do you lubricate your locomotives? It's a good question. To give you an example, my main locomotives that I run the most, I probably do a full maintenance on them about once a year. And that's getting run once or twice a week at best. Some of my locomotives might even go a year and a half to 2 years before I even do any maintenance to them because I don't run them that often. So you got the idea of how to maintain a locomotive. What about your track? Well, honestly, the best way to keep your track clean is by simply running your trains. But there are products out there you can use to clean your track with. And there's also track cleaning cars, freight cars with a track cleaner made on the bottom that you can include within your freight consist while you run your trains. An important note on cleaning your track: never use sandpaper. Sandpaper will actually scar the metal in the track and cause dirt and grime to be embedded into the rails. This will cause conductive problems and inevitably poor performance of your trains. Whatever stage of model railroading you're in, whether you're just starting out or you've got this huge basement empire, you want to take care of what you've got. And it's important to know that your locomotives and your track need some attention from time to time. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any maintenance tips, please put them in the comments below. I, like many other model railroaders, am still learning, and I would love to learn from you all. So until next time, I'm Chris with the Mill Run in Western Maryland. Thank you for watching.